Hi guys, and welcome to the Ace Tanker for the Pz.II J, the Tier 3 premium German light tank. Although it's a heavy tank, regardless of what the stats say, it is a heavy tank. Now, I did have another video planned for release today, and I cancelled it. You'll get it a different day, mainly because I woke up this morning and discovered that the Pz.II J was on sale for Gamescom. So, yep. I haven't shown this tank very much on the channel before, so an emergency video putting this together really quickly for you guys, just in case any of you out there are wondering whether or not you should pick this up. It's not cheap. Now, before we even go into it, it's not cheap. You're going to be paying €100, but I'm going to use the same argument I was planning to use when I eventually got down to make a review for this tank. And the thing is, you're paying €100 for an extremely rare tank, but you're not actually paying €100 for the tank. What you're paying for is over 30,000 gold. Now, 30,000 gold is going to buy you 2 Tier 8 premiums and have gold left over. So you're buying a pack that has 2 Tier 8 premiums with enough gold to put camo and everything else on them, and you end up getting a free Pz.II J. So on today's offer for Gamescom on the World of Tanks website, I'm actually quite happy that they've actually highlighted the fact that you're buying a pack with 30,000 gold and you get a free Pz.II J, because a lot of the criticism Wargaming have received is that they're selling a Pz.II J for €100, and that's not the case. I've always said you're buying the pack, you're getting the tank for free, and in that case, it's definitely worth it if you're planning to buy 2 Tier 8 premium tanks. On the other hand, if you've got all the premium tanks you want and you don't want a Tier 8 premium tank, then it is a very expensive package for a tank that is quite surprisingly well, it's very surprisingly because I don't play it very often. It's a very good tank. It's a very troll tank. It's a tank you play to have fun. Yet, I find myself not playing it very often because I don't like playing low tiers unless I'm trying to get an ace tanker. I'm not one of these players who has played hundreds and hundreds or thousands of games in the Pz.II J. So even though I've owned this tank for about 7 months now, I bought it the first day it was on sale last Christmas, I've probably only played about 10 games, maybe 1 or 2 more in the tank since then, because I just don't find it a lot of fun to play. It is fun to play, but it's a personal thing. Mainly down to the fact it's a little bit situational. What surprised me about the tank was the survivability can be very good, or it can be very bad. It all depends on the players on the enemy team. If the enemy team have a lot of experienced players, they are going to be firing gold at this tank. Tanks firing HE can hurt this tank, and also experienced players know how to kill these tanks. So while the survivability of this tank can be amazing, sometimes you can get killed very easily, even when you weren't expecting it. The tank does have weak spots, and it's not invincible, but it is incredibly well armored for a Tier 3 light tank. So I'm going to pop into Tanks GG, and you can see that the armor on this tank is just troll. It is troll. Tier 3, and it's a light tank. So what we've got is an extremely well armored tank from the front. So you've got 123 millimeters of penetration or effective armor on the lower glacis. The upper glacis is actually not quite as good, 83 millimeters, slightly sloped but not great sloping. Lots of Tier 2s going to have problems penning this tank from the front, but there are lots of Tier 3s and lots of Tier 4s, absolutely no problems penning it from the front. And that's the thing, this tank will see Tier 3s, it sees Tier 4s, and sometimes you get those amazing games where you're top tier with a lot of Tier 2s on the enemy team, and that's when you see the Pz.II J at its absolute best, when it just rolls around a map like Ensk and it ends up getting like 10, 12 kills single-handedly because nothing can pen it. But they're the games you see on YouTube. You don't get to see the games where this tank absolutely sucks. which is, you know, again, tier 4 games, tier 3 games where enemy players are spamming gold, or there's lots of tier 3s and tier 4 tank destroyers on the enemy team that have more than 83 millimeters of penetration. So the upper and lower glacis are very, very good, but it's a little bit situational. The middle plate here, I'm not quite sure what the technical term for it is. Again, 81 millimeters of effective armor. Now this is better. This is better than the middle plate on something like a tier 5 heavy, like a KV-1S or a KV-1. You've got two areas, the viewports. They are a little bit weaker, 70 millimeters, so they can again be penned from the front. They're very, very flat if you've got a high penetration gun. And a lot of people talk about this strip here. I've heard the Mighty Jingles talk about this strip. He said it was a weak spot, and technically it is, because it's only 25 millimeters of effective armor. So yeah, it can be penned from the front, but not at straight angles, because even though it's only 25 millimeters, look at the it goes up to 75, 74 millimeters at this angle. So it's very, very well angled. So even though it is considered a weak spot, only if tanks are shooting down at it. If you're in a tall tank, you can shoot down. You can see even just slightly taller, the effective armor drops to 40 millimeters. If you're shooting down from a rise, it's only 31 millimeters. So this is a weak spot on the front, the upper plate here. But if you're shooting it straight on, as you can see, the effective armor is very, very good. It can be much, much better. But again, lots of tanks can pen this from the front. It's something that really, really surprised me when I first started driving it. The front of the turret, very, very troll. You've got a very, very good gun mantlet. You could see it's 178, 238 millimeters in place with spaced armor. But it's a little bit inconsistent. You can see this area here drops down to 81. Area over here drops down to 81. The cheeks are also just to the left and right of the gun mantlet. The cheeks drop down to 50 millimeters just to the left and right, but very hard to hit, and it's more than likely going to be a bounce. The roof of the tank, now this is where, if you're an RT player, and I absolutely hate low tier games when I'm playing a Pz.II J, or when I see a Pz.II J on the enemy team, and our RT focus on easy kills. They focus on light skinned targets because they think this thing is impenetrable. No, it's not. RT, if you do not target this tank straight away the moment you see it on the enemy team, you are failing your team, because this tank only has 25 millimeters of armor on the engine deck. It only has 25 millimeters of armor on the roof. The top of the commander's cupola, 25 millimeters. And as I say, this area here on front, 25 millimeters. So from the top, this tank is incredibly badly armored. RT, you need to focus Pz.II Js on the enemy team, because if you don't, and you're focusing on light-skinned targets because you think they're easier kills, these tanks, or the Pz.II J, is just going to eat up your team and leave you standing alone against it. Focus these things first. You can kill them, you can hit them, you can penetrate them. Only 25 millimeters of top armor. And that goes for other tanks who manage to get above them and are firing HE as well. Go for the top of the tank. Very, very weak. So yes, these things are killable. Now, if you do get it as top tier into a tier 3 game and you're facing a lot of tier 2s, even tier 2s can effectively kill you, some of them at least. The side armor is only 50 millimeters thick, so lots of tier 2s can get 50 millimeters of penetration, although admittedly they have to load up gold in some cases. Other tier 2s have more than 40 millimeters of penetration, and if that's the case and they can get to your side, then what they can do is they can aim for the crew hatches, which are only 40 millimeters thick. So yeah, this tank can be penned by lower tier tanks shooting directly into these crew hatches on the sides. They're on both sides, so this tank is killable, but by the problem, or one of the biggest strengths this tank has, is it faces a lot of players who really don't know how to take one of these things out. If you sit in front of this tank, it's going to chew you apart. If you sit, or if you get to the side, you can take it out. If you get to the rear, you can take it out. So it's got about 50 millimeters of effective armor all across the back. There are weak strips. The bottom, well, that's not a weak strip that's 80mm. Didn't realize that, thought that was weaker. But from this angle, the engine deck, not so good. You're going to bounce, you're going to have problems penning the engine deck from behind, again because of the severe angle. But if you can get above this tank and shoot down, all of a sudden that 100mm turns to 40. So this tank can be killed. I don't think it didn't have the survivability I was expecting. My first few games on this, I got absolutely torn apart by higher tier TDs and tank destroyers. But yeah, it's incredibly good if you manage to get a top tier. It's incredibly good if there aren't a lot of RT on the enemy team, but they can be killed if you know what you're doing. So I'm not saying the armor is terrible. In fact, the armor is incredibly good, but a lot of it depends on the matchmaker. And in this particular game, this game was played earlier this week, so it was before the tank went on sale. As I said, I've had this tank for a long time. I just don't play it very often because to be honest, I have fun playing it when I do play it, but I just feel dirty. I just feel dirty playing the Pz.II J. That's the honest truth. But anyway, we're in the worst case scenario here. This is the absolute worst matchup this tank can possibly get into. I would love to show you an ace tanker. This is the first one in the tank, but I'd love to show you a game where I'm rolling around Ensk and I end up getting 10 or 12 kills. But honestly, that's never happened. I usually end up getting it into tier 4 games. I usually end up getting it into games with Arty. And this is a pretty standard ace tanker. This is the tank being played like a regular tank, not a massive puppy kicker. I may be incredibly well armored, but I'm bottom tier. I'm as far down the tank list as you can get. It's a very tier 4 game. Half the enemy team are tier 4, and there are 3 RT on the enemy team. Lots of tanks on the enemy team. Going to be able to penetrate a Pz.II J, no problems. The T-28s can penetrate this tank, the M3 Lee. 101mm of penetration with the M3 Lee, or 98mm, I can't remember. He can penetrate the front of my tank, absolutely no problems. The Sao 40, absolutely no problems penetrating this tank. Covenanter can actually penetrate the front of this tank as well. Some of the other tanks can penetrate with premium ammo as well. So this is about as bad as it gets. And not only that, it's on steps. So it's a big open map. The Pz.II J is not a fast tank. It's a light tank, but it plays like a heavy tank. It's a it's not particularly quick. In fact, it's quite slow on a big map like this. And as I say, 3 RT. So here we're gonna go. As I'm rushing this out, just so you guys can see this tank in action. If any of you are wondering whether or not you should pick it up over the next couple of days. So it's Encounter, and this game does not start very well. Now, I'm in a slow tank. You can see that I'm doing 20 kilometers an hour long here. It's Encounter. I'm clicking on the map, I'm clicking on the Encounter thing, but yet, look, our team are lemming training. Now, the reason I'm not going cap is because this tank is just too slow. Slow tanks, by the time they get over to cap, usually all the enemy tanks over there are dead, or all the friendly tanks that went over there are dead. So slow tanks, it's usually better to go up the one line and then work your way across. But you need your faster tanks, you need your medium tanks, you need your light tanks, you need your faster TDs to go over to cap on Encounter. I'm in chat, I'm not happy. OMG, it's Encounter. What the fuck are you all guys, what are you all doing? Our team are completely lemming training. All our top tiers, our top tier heavies, they're all coming this way. And it's not as if we've got a very inexperienced team either. Most of these players have about 5k or over 5k games played. I'm the most experienced player on my team. They all know what they need to do, but if the enemy team rush cap, this game is over. All the enemy team have to do is put 2 tanks in cap and the game is over. The only thing we've done is we sent one Pz.II J, is it, over there? Or not Panzer 1C. We sent one Panzer 1C over there. The rest of our team are camping spawn, or they're lemming training the 1-2 lines. So we're moving up. Now I've loaded gold, and again, this is one of these tanks. I showed the FV215B183 on the channel recently. This is one of these tanks that really has to fire gold. I would have problems penning this guy from the side if I wasn't firing gold. So another tier 3 light tank. The gun, I forgot to talk about the gun on this tank. It's got a terrible gun. It's got the same gun as actually the Panzer II D, the tier 2 gift tank. The review is coming for that pretty soon. but it uses the same gun. Standard AP only has 23 millimeters of penetration, so it struggles. It struggles against even tier 2s. The premium ammo is one of the big balancing factors of this tank. You get 46 millimeters of penetration with your premium ammo. Again, it's an auto-loader, 11 damage, has absolutely no penetration at range, but yeah, the gun, big balancing factor. Terrible gun unless you're firing gold, and even then it's a little bit lackluster against tier 4s. But you could see the severe problems the Panzer 1C had penning me from the front. Part of the issue was he was actually above me. He should have been shooting my upper plate, and he would have only had 25 millimeters of penetration or armor to go through, but he didn't. He shot the front of my tank instead of my upper plate, and he bounced all his shots. So I've taken no damage. I've got 1 kill. I'm still advancing, and the enemy team have made a huge mistake. The enemy team didn't cap. They're not putting any pressure on the cap whatsoever. So you can see, not exactly accurate, and it's taking 1, 2, 3 magazines to finish off the RT. And again, we're moving forward. Our RT is telling us to go spot, and yet this team was just so bad. This team had so much more experience than the enemy team, and they're just so bad. I mean, look at our DW2, look at our Matilda, look at our South 40. Well, our South 40 is going towards cap. But we had a Chiha. That Chiha basically spent the entire game sitting at the back of the map. This is a tank that Chiha could have gone over to cap. He could have flanked around. He could have done a lot more, but he spent most of the game sitting around doing F-all. Our DW2 and our Matilda decide that, you know, we're just going to sit here on the 1-2 lines. We're going to lemming train, and then we're going to sit and snipe from these positions. We are somehow magically still in this game. It's 8-8 or 8-9. The enemy team have been very generous. They haven't put very much pressure on cap, but we've got to go. I've got to go towards cap now. I'm avoiding the South 40 because he can easily kill me. And I'm having problems. You can see me having severe problems penning the South 40 even with premium ammo. But the enemy team have wrapped around. They're overconfident. Our team are just taking them out, but the biggest problem is cap. If the enemy team had 2 tanks or 3 tanks in the cap, this game would have been lost. And now they do have 2 tanks in cap. But thankfully, enemy team made a huge mistake, didn't win the game. I'm only on 2 kills, I'm on 251 damage. You're probably asking, how the heck is this an ace tanker? I ask myself that sometimes too. But it is the first ace in the tank. But 2 tanks in the cap. Not sure what tanks they are. Covenanter, medium, 2 cruisers. Cruiser 5 on the enemy team's got 5, or Cruiser 4 in the enemy team's got 5 kills. So well played to him. But medium 3. I actually don't need premium ammo for this guy, but Covenanter is the other guy. Okay. So we take out the Covenanter, and I should have switched to regular AP. Didn't need premium for that guy. But we're up to, all of a sudden, 560 damage, 3 kills, and turning around, Stuart coming around, and again, Stuart can't pen a Stuart with regular AP. Not unless I get weak spot shots, but I'm just waiting here. So I know that the enemy cruiser can potentially hurt me. He's on 5 kills. Here he comes, but he's on low health. We can finish him off with 1 magazine. There's kill number 4. And now it's time to advance on the Stuart 1-4. So you can see, acceleration, not great. Oh, Covenanter penned me with gold. Forgot to mention that. First damage I've taken this game. Experienced players load up gold when they see one of these things. And the Covenanter could pen me from the front with gold. So the armor is not as good as you might think when you're fighting experienced players. But this tank really does benefit from inexperienced players. So move up, I've auto-aimed. Decide not to auto-aim, and just gonna go through the front. Now this guy, he knows what he's doing. He tries to get to my side, and he ends up getting taken out. But Yeah, that guy should have gone on the attack. He should have tried to get to my side sooner. But first Ace Tanker in the Pz.II J. I wasn't happy with the game. I wasn't happy with our team. A lot of inexperience on both sides. And I didn't really get to show off one of those amazing games where you end up getting 10 kills on Ensk fighting against tier 2s. It is a fun tank to play. It is a very, very good tank. It is incredibly overpowered. It's worth owning if you're a collector. If you're a collector, you definitely have to get one of these tanks in your garage. But yeah, I just, I feel so dirty when I end up playing it because you've got to fire gold. I don't like firing gold in premium tanks. It's not a very good crew trainer. And I just don't really have a reason to play this. The only reason you would play the Pz.II J is to puppy kick. And really, that's not me. I only play low tier tanks in order to get ace tankers, and then I usually sell them. But yeah, Pz.II J, incredibly good tank. But is it worth picking up if you don't need any tier 8 premium tanks? Probably not. On the other hand, if you do want to buy some premium tanks, tier 8 premium tanks, the package is well worth it. €100, you get 2 tier 8 premium tanks, and of your choice. You're not forced into buying any of them. In fact, you could even buy 3. You could possibly, or maybe not 3, but you could possibly buy 2 tier 8 premium tanks and have a heck of a lot of gold left over to buy some lower tier premium tanks. But yeah, Ace Tanker in the tank. I finished top on XP with 907 XP, 800 damage, 4 kills. And as I say, it's not one of those games where you end up getting 12 kills, but that really hasn't happened to me very much. But tier 4, as you can see, played tier 3, tier 4 games, so worst matchup possible, big open map, 3 RT on the enemy team, worst possible scenario for the Pz.II J, and it still works. It's still a good tank, but you do have to fire gold, and it's not going to make you money. So I made a loss of 30,000 credits. So yeah, as I say, the only reason you want to play this tank is to troll people, and that's... I would prefer to troll people at tier 10 on my FE183 than at tier 3 in my Pz.II J. 138 shots fired, all premium, 98 hits, 75 penetrated. Damage was okay, I suppose. I spotted 4, damaged 6, destroyed 4, did 500 assistance damage, did 58 base cap points, so I was quite happy with. But the enemy team gave us that victory. They really gave us that victory. Our team played incredibly badly, and the enemy team just played worse. That happens. 1060 XP on the first game of the day. Hadn't played the Pz.II J in quite a while. Left beyond 5,000 or 3,536. But yeah, Pz.II J, first ace tanker in that tank. It's currently available in the gift shop on the EU for the Gamescom special. Is it worth it? Yeah. It's worth it if you're a tank collector, and it's worth it if you want to buy a couple of tier 8 premium tanks, but don't feel pressured into buying this tank. It's not invincible. It's very, very good, but it's not invincible. Personally, I don't find it a lot of fun to play, and if you are going to be playing a lot of games in this tank, then I'm just going to call you a puppy kicker, because that's what this tank is built for. Anyhow, rushed video for today because the tank is on sale. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.